We are live. Welcome back. This is Coffee Break with Coachman, and we have definitely a special evening. I'm really sorry that we are 15 minutes late, but the Wimbledon match was on the tiebreaker, Nadal and Djokovic, and we couldn't start before the end of the tiebreaker. They actually finished the tiebreaker, didn't finish the match. The match continues tomorrow. Amazing match for the ones that are big tennis fans. I'm sure many of my colleagues here are. That's why we stopped to respect the tennis fans to start right after that. And I know my super special guest is also a tennis fan. That's why we also had to wait for him. We were all watching the match. I promised everybody, since we started with this project, Coffee Break with Coachman, that I was going to bring the best here to be able to pick their brains, the best from all aspects of our dental industry, from business, change of clinics, new trends, technology, online education, science, biology, perio-restorative, prosto, endo, orthodontics, orthognathic, facially driven treatment planning, everything. But today we definitely have not only one of the best, but definitely one of the best of the best. My dear friend Maurice Salama, representing the whole team Atlanta, was able to open 1 hour of his busy schedule to be here with us. And honestly, I believe this is going to be special because most of you know my relationship with Team Atlanta. And what I'm going to do here before we start is I'm going to ask everybody that is watching now, that is enjoying the show, to help us spread the word by sharing this show. If you will be able to help us share this show in your feed and allow more people to take advantage of the precious information we're going to share here tonight with all of you. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm sharing all over right now, so you can watch. You can watch on Best Practices Show Facebook page, Digital Smile Design Facebook page. Maurice Salama is sharing also on Dental XP, so you can watch also on their Facebook page. Anyway, it's all over the world now. We've been having amazing audience, an average of 5,000 to 10,000 people from all over the world watching us on this show. So thank you very much. And as I mentioned, why today is special, not only because of my relationship with Team Atlanta, not only because of my friendship and admiration for Maurice, but also because this year I found out we are celebrating 50 years of innovation and education with Team Atlanta. 50 years since Dr. Ronald Goldstein first published his first piece of knowledge, shared with the world, and you will be able to see. I had to say, I worked hard yesterday and today, together with Maurice, bringing together the history of Team Atlanta. You will not believe what we were able to put together, and Maurice will comment step by step all the landmarks from 1968. I'm even lost until 2018. Maurice Salama, thank you so much. You know how much I appreciate having you here. Thank you so much, my friend. Your opening.
Christian, for us, it's always been a very close family relationship. Above anything else, on a Friday evening, it's special for me to be able to be with you today. You know that you and your family and your extended families very well. And it's extra special that a person like yourself that was an integral part of Team Atlanta for several years and helped add completely different dimension to our team, shared with us, continue to share with us. So to be with you tonight, to be able to kind of reminisce, it was kind of interesting. You and I had a chance to, when you said to me, hey, you know what? Have you ever gone back and chronologically looked at what was created from this group? And I had to go back and look at all of the stuff I didn't even have because before I ever joined Team Atlanta, and I realized, oh my goodness, look at all the things that even myself, I was not aware of. So thank you for stimulating me to do this research together.
It was an experience for me, I have to tell you, going back in time and getting the information from you, researching and organizing the timeline. I love history myself, and it's amazing to see, how much sometimes we don't appreciate when we are with real pioneers. I was there, you were there with Ron and David. And I was there for 5 years with them. And of course, I knew who was Goldstein, but it's unbelievable by going back in time and organizing everything he did, all the ideas he put together, all the people he joined, all the initiatives he had. I think everybody's going to be amazed when we go to the timeline and we show, actually, just as a teaser, because we have one topic, a couple of topics that I want to discuss before we jump into the timeline. But Ben, if you can show my third camera here, I'm going to give to everybody a little teaser. Look at this timeline here. I'm going to just go quickly. Everything. Can you see, Ben? So we're going to discuss each one of these historical moments of dentistry with Maurice, and he's going to comment, of course, giving us his perspective of each one of these moments. It's going to be super, super cool. But before we go into this history, Maurice, I want you to speak a little bit about this new project. We're going to start from 2018 before we go 1968. The Orthodontic Online Fellowship that I was able to give a pre-teaser on Tuesday. I gave my first lecture live, and it was really views online. We are getting, I don't know, Ben, maybe like 7,000 people watched the opening lecture, my lecture. That is the opening lecture of this new project that you are heading. The online fellowship, Orthodontic Fellowship. Explain me a little bit better. What is this?
Yeah, it's a very exciting thing because obviously the whole world's starting to get more involved in orthodontics and aesthetics, and obviously through the digital world, digital smile design, and things like that. We've had an opportunity with Align and with you and with your team to organize for them an online orthodontic Align fellowship program, which will integrate some of the advances that they have, because they've really advanced their projects and their technology to a degree where now it's being utilized across all fathoms of orthodontics, from preteen to actually early treatment orthodontics, all the way to pre-prosthetic and adult orthodontics. So you'll be able to go online. Hopefully, we're launching next month. So keep an eye out for the Dental XP Align program, and Christian will be the inaugural lecturer, which we're very excited about. And then, of course, the opportunity to gain your ability to go through this program, to see some of the knowledge from some of the top Invisalign users around the world who are going to share their content with us, and to get your accreditation.
I was looking at the program. It's actually a very in-depth program. It's 10 sessions. It's really almost like a specialization program online. And then you have the combination with, after you do the online, you go in person to do the Invisalign training as well. So it's a very comprehensive program, as I can see, right?
Yeah, one of the nice things is that what has digital allowed us to do is it gives people the opportunity to take the didactic portion at their pace and be able to slow down, stop, go back to certain segments that they want and revisit it, and not have to worry about the didactic session when they go and do their practical session. So I think it's been very, very successful. We've done online.
That's I'm going to ask the existing ones. What are the existing programs you guys have already?
Right now, we have the online fellowship program in collaboration with NYU, which is 168 hours of CE. It's in 9 sessions with almost 100 modules. Each each session and module has an examination that you must pass.
Everything online.
Everything is online. And what's nice is that because you have to pass each test an 80, you can't get, it's not 70 or 65. You have to have an 80 or better on each exam to go to the next level. And then you have to pass the entire thing. You cannot fail one part of this exam. So you have probably about 90 or 100 small examinations that you have to pass. And at the end of the fellowship, you attain a certificate. Now, what's been great is that we launched this thing maybe almost 3 years ago, and we have over 680 graduates of the program. So it's been very, very successful, and it's been received very, very well by our global friends all around the world.
So the Ortho Fellowship is the second program that Dental XP is launching,
yes,
after the England one.
There'll be this will be the second one, and then down the road, we're looking at an endodontic fellowship program as well as an aesthetics program as well. So those two should be launched sometime later this year or early next year.
And the implant fellowship, after you go through that whole online training and you do the tests, you also have some extra options of in-person real
hands-on. Yeah, you know, like you mentioned with even the Align fellowship program, you know, the ortho program, you know, the didactic's really important, but we always want people to go and take the hands-on training. So Dental XP offers 6 modules, hands-on modules that we suggest you take to receive your mastership status. We call mastership programs. You can take that at either in Atlanta or anywhere around the world. We have accredited centers in the Middle East, in the Far East, in Europe, in South Africa with Howie Gluckman. And then we also offer an expertship status, a program where we do in Brazil, like, you know, in Sao Paulo at the Metropolitan University in MS, which has been, this year will be our 7th year return. 7 years. And really, that's been my favorite course of all. We go with every year it's sold out, as a matter of fact, and they built a brand new facility last year. So we were the inaugural program in the new facility. And that program is really I think the epitome or the cherry on top of a really
real patient, right? That's when you do real patients.
Live patients in Brazil with all the equipment, all the instruments, and all the state-of-the-art bioengineering and biologics available. And you're being tutored by some of the very best people in the world. I mean, we've had Henry, my brother was there, Howie Gluckman, Marcelo Ferrer, Emmanuel De La Rosa. Last year we had Robert Silva from the very famous Implant Perio group in Sao Paulo. So this year they're returning with the entire group. So it's been an amazing course to give, and I've learned a lot doing it.
I think it's a very democratic way of sharing knowledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it has
training. It's not everybody that can, you know, people from all over the world like us in Brazil, very tough for us to go to US and move to US for 1 year and do a 1 year, 2 years, do a specialization program with the best there. And even if we go to US, it's usually hard for you to do a lot of real surgery on real patients. So you're suddenly putting the best of all worlds. You do everything that is possible in terms of content is online. You can do from anywhere in the world. Then you do hands-ons with the best in the world. And then you come as the third part and do live patients supervised. I think there's no better way to learn implants.
If you ask me, the things that I have seen, I wish they were available when I was a student. I know you know that we are a family, you and I, your family, my family, but you know Eddie's daughter, the CEO of Dental XP, is in her 3rd year at NYU Perio, and she came to the Brazil course last year, and she's going to come again this year because she said to me in 4 days in Brazil, she did things that she had never seen even in 2 years at the program at NYU. So I think it's a very unique training, as you said, didactic first, then the hands-on workshop on specimens in a very protected environment, and then really the ultimate course being the live course in Brazil, where you can treat live patients under the tutelage of some of the very, very best. I mean, really, truly the very best surgeons in the world. And I'm really proud of our ability to work. It always seems that we always come back to Brazil, Christian.
Yep. Yeah. It's good to know that, somehow Brazil it's generating these situations for people to come here and share their knowledge. I love it. And
I think Brazil has done the same about sharing the knowledge. They have incredible, talented dentists. You have a lot to do with it, you and your family and your father. I compliment you. You've been a big pioneer for the dentistry in Brazil, and you brought them to the forefront. And I have been very impressed with the level of dentistry in Brazil since the very first time that I came, and you were a student hosting me with your dad. So it's been a long time. 22 years, 23 years now. And
that's an interesting story. We should explore that a little bit. The connections, the way the story brought us together. But I want you to start explaining a little bit. I know everybody knows Maurice Salama, but always good to introduce a little bit about your background, your scientific background, as a professional, a little bit of your story.
Sure. Yeah. My training was in biology. I was a major in biology in my undergraduate studies. I was interested in medicine and dentistry. And because my older brother, as we know, Henry, is periodontist and prosthodontist trained at Penn, I obviously was exposed through him and decided to go after a training in dentistry. I went to the University of Pennsylvania, where I got my dental degree, but then I went and did a year of hospital training in New York City, and that was very, very interesting. It allowed me to have experience with surgery and emergency room training, and I decided that I want to go back and have more further training in surgery, but I got also an opportunity to do my orthodontic training. So I was one of the maybe now there's 20 graduates of the Perio Ortho program, University of Pennsylvania, a very premier program, the only one of its kind.
So it's not that you did Perio and then Ortho. You did a Perio Ortho program that was combined with these two specialties. And I think that's a very unique combination.
Yes, it's the only accredited ortho-perio program in the world, in my understanding. I don't know if there's somewhere else in the world, but certainly when I graduated, there was no other one in the world. It was a very unique program. There's only one student accepted every 3 years. So it's very intense, but it was wonderful. I had great mentors, and I got a chance to really understand and learn part of what we did together at Team Atlanta was sharing of multiple disciplines, being able to provide all aspects of dental care. So having both degrees as well as the training from the implant center at the University of Pennsylvania, we had the Brandenmark Implant Center there. So I stayed and trained with my brother, who is one of the directors of the program. So I had a lot of very, very multi-specialty training. And I think that was the reason that Ron and David in 1992 was nice enough to invite me to come to Atlanta and change my life.
We will get there definitely on the exception. Why Goldstein Garber picked you, and what was the feeling for you at that moment to be picked by Goldstein Garber? Because at that time they were already, you're going to see on the timeline that they did a lot before you came in already. So they were very big at that time. It was probably a huge moment for you to be selected by them. I had a similar experience when they picked me, but you were part of that decision.
I'm going to ask the same question.
But the thing is, I can see the combination of factors. You have a brother that was a prosthodontist, but also did perio, right?
Yes.
And then you came into dentistry. You had experience at the hospital with big surgery. Had experience implants, perio orthodontics, and I can definitely see why. I remember on the 90s, the main reason why we in Brazil, and I remember my father and my father colleagues talking about the Salama brothers and Goldstein Garber and Salama, talking about this perio ortho combination. You were definitely one of the pioneers on that, moving teeth towards the implant, thinking about the implant as the final goal, or improving the site because of you're going to place implant, you do it with ortho. So this today it's natural for the younger generation to think about this combination, but on the 90s, about improving sites with ortho to think about the implants. This was amazing, and we're going to go through these articles, right?
Absolutely. And listen, there was a lot of things that we take for granted today, Christian. You're saying things that are really great, even for me. It's got to be hard for people who are out watching this interview right now. When I tell you honestly what happened this week when you and I sat and talked, and we did the research together, didn't we? Yes. Even myself going through it, I realize how much I myself and even us, Team Atlanta, take for granted what wasn't routine 20, 30, 40 years ago. And really in the early 90s, what you said is completely true. My first time in Brazil, I remember there was a whole team of dentists that you introduced me to that were very, very intrigued and excited about this whole concept of orthodontic manipulation of bone and soft tissue and preparing sites and how to use implants as anchor units. And today, we take it for granted. People say, yeah, I'm going to do orthodontic extrusion, or I'm going to use an implant to move teeth. And back then, it was unheard of. It was actually, the people looked at us and they said, I don't understand. That's not practical. Who would do that? But today, because of people pushing the envelope, and I believe that in many ways that everybody who's been part of our team has helped do that. Certainly, you've done it as well.
I usually say that when you are developing a concept and somebody looks at you and says, why would I do that? That's a very strong sign that you're on the right path.
I agree.
So that happens a lot for people having new ideas, and it's very disruptive. And we know we're going to see the history, but the team was disrupting 1 year after the other, and it's very interesting to see that things that today we don't realize. I was looking at the story here, and in 2008, I developed a little system of the 10 steps of smile design, the 10 steps of the smile frame, right? And then researching here, this was 2008. 1988, Garber was talking about the 10 steps of smile design. So it makes you humble when you study, when you go back and you look at the information. You see that it's mainly inspiration that you get from your mentors that allow you to maybe improve details here and there. But, it's always a sequence of processes.
Christian, you said two things that I want to go back to for a moment, because I think you're absolutely right. If somebody said to me, why was Dental XP, why Dental XP wasn't created, and Team Atlanta incubator for great ideas. We pushed each other to create great ideas. We didn't accept that we didn't have a solution for something. And if there wasn't a good enough solution, then we pushed each other collectively. That was the beauty of the team. And I know you're going to go over the timeline, but when we brought people in like Pinkas Adar, because Ron realized there's weakness in composite resins, and we needed somebody who can do really high quality feldspathic porcelain and veneers. And then we realized that we needed somebody with Henry's training in reconstructive dentistry, because at that time the office was weak in that particular arena. So we constantly brought people in, but then challenged them. And when you came into the office, the same thing occurred. You came in, you became part of our group, you realized how we work, but then we challenged one another. We challenged you, and then you in return challenged us. And I believe when we look back, the most enjoyment I had was to say, my gosh, I remember those moments in the creative process where the juices were flowing. How many evenings with a glass of scotch, Christian, late at night with the computer and the camera. It was motivational, it was inspirational, it was true team dentistry. So when people say to me, doesn't it get aggravating working in a group? Don't you just want to be your own boss, say your own things, make your own decisions? I wouldn't change working in a group setting for anything, because I believe that the disruptive concepts came out of that type of group setting where each one of us looked at each other not as a competition, but as somebody who can elevate each other collectively.
Definitely. But definitely the team environment takes us to a completely different level. And you guys were pioneers. That's the reason why everybody knows Team Atlanta. You know, that brain in the 60s when he started, he probably had that little thing in his brain saying, I need to create something different. I need to work as a team. But also the exercise today of, and I try to do that all the time, researching back, you know, every time you have a super cool idea and you think you're super cool, just look back in time and you're going to see that 99% of your idea, you were inspired by other people. You may not remember exactly the moment in your life that you were inspired, but you were definitely inspired by other people to have the idea. And that's why I believe that great ideas don't belong to anybody. They belong to everybody, you know. But let me show quickly here, because we have so much on the timeline, and I want to go over here so you can start you know, I really want to take advantage of this interview to make a tribute. It's a tribute for this team, for this entity. And let's show the groundbreaking landmarks of history here, okay? So we can evaluate and give value when we I want everybody watching this interview, if they meet Dr. Goldstein next time in an important meeting, look at this guy and understand what happened, okay? So just quickly here, okay, we're going to go back, but I'm going to say quickly a summary of the history. 1968, he was a young dentist. He did his first research, first publication. 1973, first time ever somebody puts the word aesthetics on the title of a dental publication. Now, pay attention. Everybody talks about aesthetics today. Everybody takes ownership of this word today. He put this word here, and I can understand how much attacks he probably got at that time, putting aesthetics into the
incredible
world of dentistry. Yeah. Then 73, 76, he's not even starting, and he already published another pioneering book, first book ever directed to the consumer. So I can tell you something. One of my passions is marketing, and this can be the birth of marketing in dentistry, I would say.
Sure.
1976.
100%.
Change Your Smile with Goldstein. Okay, now we jump to 81. 81, the second player, David Garber. Landmark article on crown lengthening. 81, landmark Pontex site enhancement article. And then finally, Goldstein calls in Garber. It's 83. 84, Goldstein says, it's not enough. I want also one of the best ceramics around. So he goes to Willy Geller and he brings Willy Geller's best pupil, Pingas Adar. And they continue. 85, first ever book about bleaching. 86, first ever book about veneers. Now, this was new for me. This was new. 89, Goldstein and Garber, they give the first lecture ever on a computer.
It was a desktop. It was a desktop computer.
Yeah.
It wasn't a laptop.
Yeah.
88 pounds.
1990, first lecture on 10 steps to smile design. 1990. Okay, now let's go here. They want to go beyond, and they want to bring perio ortho to the next level. They bring Maurice Salama, 92. 93, Maurice landmark article on ortho extrusion, Henry and Maurice. 93, another landmark first article on immediate loading. 94, it's unbelievable. 94, first book ever mentioning inlays only. 94, Goldstein Garber. 94 as well, so they're not happy with one book per year. They do 2 books per year. Look at this for the DSD followers. 94, book on digital imaging, digital simulation, smile simulation, and all that stuff. Goldstein and Garber. 95, guided soft tissue. healing abutment supporting vertical tissue growth. I was doing that in 2010 and thinking I was amazing. Okay, this is 95. 96, another groundbreaking article on orthoperio. Then Periodontology book 2000, a chapter on aesthetic smile design, diagnosis, and treatment. Then 96, finally, Henry decides to officially join the team. Okay, 98, another great article. This is a landmark. You're going to talk about this, Maurice, but let's continue quickly here. 99, immediate tooth replacement by drilling through the teeth. 2001, another article on immediate placement. 2003, this one, I don't know, that's probably one of the most mentioned articles on history of dentistry. The article with Dennis Tarnow on interproximal height of bone. Then you have 2002, another great article here, Maurice and Henry. And then I came on board, 2004. Look what happened to me. Yeah, so I was part of this. So let's continue. 2005, we moved to the new office, beautiful new logo, and we. You guys joined forces with an amazing Japanese team, and there's a series of amazing articles with the Japanese 5D group. And continuously, we start with the publication of the pink restorative artificial gingiva. DSD started in 2008, and I was in Team Atlanta at that time. So the ideas were conceptualized while I was there. 2009, this guy comes on board, Eddie, and DSD Dental XP, becomes official. Now, look at this. 2008, root submergence, 8, tunnel technique. I had to add this picture here. We're going to talk about this picture here. 2009, one abutment, one time. 2009, pink hybrid restoration, publication right here, 3-part article, historical for me, every regeneration is almost done, not completely done. 2014, dual zone socket management, partial extraction therapies with PET, with Gluckman. Then we have the continuation with the articles with the Japanese guys. Surgical veneer grafting with the Anini brothers. And 2018, Goldstein, it's never tired, editing his final edition that will be released this year of Aesthetic in Dentistry, and Team Atlanta is just starting all over with Team Atlanta 2.0.
Amazing. It was tiring just to hear you say it, but it happened. Christian, what you said, first of all, thank you so much. It was a lot of work this week to put it together. I know you and I both, I think it was a cathartic opportunity for us, moments for us. We look back, as you said, it's so important to look back in order to go forward.
Yeah.
And have some appreciation for what had been created together. And you know, if you ask me what I'm most happy about, that list that you described, I would tell you it's the relationships with Pincus, with you, with Guy, when Guy Cabral came to our office to join our team, and he was part of the whole DSD, the digital revolution, with you in the beginning. And we really, people that we allowed to work with us, whether it be Dennis and Stephen Chu and Team New York, and the Agnini brothers, and the Tommy Shikawa and Aki Funado and the group at 5D Japan, and then of course working with Howie Gluckman and Jonathan Dutoit, and then really through Dental XP being able to get a lot of this material out to the world quickly, not having to depend only on periodicals. And we meet people like Marcelo Ferrer and Manuel de la Rosa and so many others that were inspired really by Eddie's commitment to getting a family atmosphere like we have in Team Atlanta, and sharing that same feeling around the world.
Fantastic. It's definitely, the relationships is the best. That's the best gift that dentistry gave me. The possibility to connect with the whole world and make so many friends. Definitely, that's the key. The nice thing for me here now, Maurice, and I have to tell you, I by putting these information together, I even got emotional a couple of times during today, imagining that I was for 5 years, part of this process. All you guys, what you guys did together as a team. I want you to comment some highlights of this timeline. I'm going to start here, Ben, if you show my camera again. I want to start with these 2 articles from David Garber. We already talked about the 2 books. These are historical. For me, The Birth of Aesthetic Dentistry, right here, and The Birth of Marketing in Dentistry, Goldstein. Then we have here Garber publishing in 81 about cosmetic crown lengthening. Cosmetic. It's not a periodontal biological thing. It's
exactly
with the aesthetics in mind, right?
And by the way, Christian, he was ridiculed. A lot of people were very much against that concept. Who would remove bone and tissue just for cosmetics? It was unheard of. He was ridiculed by people that were his teachers. Yeah. And today we all do it like it's nothing. Like we just said, I'm going to do crown lengthening, I'm going to do ortho eruption. But no one was doing this. Yeah. David was the first.
The other one, Pontic Site Development. This is here. Pontic Site 1981. Grafting, connective tissue graft. Everybody does that today.
Taking tissue from the tuberosity and putting it into a Pontic site and creating ovaponic was one step forward from Lenny Abrams back with his roll technique in the early 70s. And Lenny was David's mentor. And, you talked about how we all step on the shoulders of others to be as great as we become now. David always gives the credit to Lenny Abrams, who was his teacher, who inspired him to then take tissue from tuberosity to build Pontics. And now today, again, everybody says, oh, I know that. Everybody knows that. But he was the first.
And let's go here. So if we want to see more, what about these 2 topics? Bleaching and veneers. Now, everybody does bleaching. Everybody does veneers. Now we see 2 books in 2 years from Goldstein and Garber on these 2 topics, right? 85 and 86. It's not, I hear many people saying, I was doing that on the 80s. No, it's not on the top, right? So this is really, really amazing for me. But let's get more into the next decade, because then this guy comes on board here. I want you to talk a little bit about these landmarks. Ortho extrusion with the aesthetics in mind and immediate loading.
It's a great, perfectly situated for us to talk about, because once again, Henry and I came up with orthodontic extrusion for implant site development and for regenerative purposes. But really, we took a lot of that information from the early work from Jeff Ingber and Stephen Brown back in the University of Pennsylvania in 1973 and 1976 that did it for periodontal reasons. So once again, taking the work of our predecessors and building upon that to make a tool that is so effective for something that it was never intended to do. And so once again, being challenged and challenging ourselves to do it. With immediate loading, we published the first article on immediate loading of dental implants in the maxilla in the world, 1995. And at the time, people said it couldn't be done. But we looked at the work of Schnittman and Worley in 1987, who did it in the mandible. And they had put in extra implants, assuming they'd fail. And we decided to try it in the maxilla and realized it worked. And now today, as we all know, that putting in 4 or 3 implants and doing an entire jaw full arch is becoming routine. But back in 1995, they actually held the article, the story goes. Ron Nevins said, we can't publish this because all the referees said it can't be done. And they held the article for 3 years before they eventually allowed it to be published. And these are stories that only those involved would ever hear.
For the ones that published an article or published a book, we know how hard it is to actually, it's not only being good at the procedure, but stopping your whole life to share your knowledge, stop making money, because nobody makes money with publications, neither book, but you stop your life, you put everything aside, and you decide that you're going to organize your thoughts, because without organizing your thoughts, you cannot tell a story. You cannot organize in bullet points. You cannot create a system that becomes an educational book. So actually, for every author, I think we need to give so much credit for every person that stops their professional career to organize their thoughts and create an educational material to help others to replicate what that person is doing, right? And again,
so much.
Yeah. And again, here I'm saying this because there's another book here. There's another book from Goldstein and Garber. So in the 94, they were already super famous with several books under their belt, lecturing all over, and they decided to stop again, to write again about another topic that at that time was growing. I remember that was when I was entering dentistry, and then we were having our meetings here in Brazil, and my father was inviting people to talk about inlays, onlays, inlays, onlays. And at that time, Goldstein and Garber already had, I remember that book on my father's table in 94, 95. And I remember reading that book to learn about inlays, onlays, Goldstein Garber. That's why for me it was so emotional to be invited by you guys to work, because I was following the literature as I was growing as a student.
What you just said is true. I mean, and what you have done, and because even I'll tell a little story about you, but I'll wait for later. But really, the wonderful part is what you said, is that to appreciate the time that it takes to document, to organize your concepts, your ideas, to make sure that the material is up to snuff for your colleagues, to make sure that it lasts the test of time. Because when you look back at something and change your smile, I have the original book, and I look and I say, my gosh, look at how well he organized this for the consumer. As you said, it was the first book that really showed how to promote dentistry to the consumer, and it still holds up today, even though he's done 3 and 4 editions.
Goldstein for me is part of a select group that I have as real mentors, that I call them thought organizers.
Yes.
People that can, they don't need to invent all the ideas. They learn, they stop, and they organize better than the guy who invented the idea.
He's an idea person, Christian, and what he did really well, which I always think is a talent, people don't realize it, is to put the people together that he needs to reach his dreams. Yeah. He realized he couldn't do the kind of dentistry just with composite resin. It took him 10 years to figure that out. And he said, boy, I want to do more. So rather than sit there and go and learn everything himself, he said, who do I need to surround myself with? So sometimes the best person in the room isn't the most bright or the most talented. It's the person who can motivate and create a group of people that are willing to work together to achieve the same goal. And he has been, for our group, the inspiration. And look, at 86 years, is still working 2 days a week, still inspired, motivates us all.
Maurice, I was with him a few months ago on a big meeting, and I was lecturing about all the new trends, and that becomes overwhelming. People watch my lecture with all the new ideas, and he watched the whole lecture, and he came to me after the lecture. This is very interesting. How can I make this happen for me? How can I learn this and implement this? I need some help implementing these ideas. That's his behavior, and that's why every time I meet him, it's so emotional for me, because it's so much energy and so much passion together, right? And he's so driven. And the shortcut, as you said, is teamwork. Teamwork means if you see something very cool that you want to bring to your own patients, the first question for Goldstein is not how can I learn and do it myself? Is no. How can I bring somebody to my team to help me deliver this even better to my patient?
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt. And if you really look at what you mentioned, Team Atlanta 2.0, we brought in 3 young dentists in the last year, trained at Jerry Shisha's program, trained by Didier Dice, and those are the people for Ron and for David. Marco Todros, who was trained, some of the training actually also was a big DSD guy, and you helped train him on that. So you're right, Ronald was one of those people who would go and get the select people who can introduce him to the new concepts so that he can bring it to his patients.
Yes.
And I think that's
very important. Huh? That's very important. We are talking about publication, science, the lecture world, but Goldstein always had in mind his main goal? The patient.
Yes.
The patient.
In the end, we are in the end successful or not successful by how the patient perceives all the work that we put into the case. So for him, he saw the clarity in that back in the early 70s, and that hasn't wavered. He never got caught up in the fame. He never got caught up in the publications, and that therefore inspired all of us around him to do the kinds of things that we've done together.
Nice. Let's go back to my screen here, because now this guy comes on board officially, and I want to spend some minutes talking about my experience with Henry, because everybody that likes lecturing, we all have egos. We enjoy the fact of being on stage. I know Goldstein has that, Garber has that, you have it, I have it. We have fun being on stage. Henry was always a natural low profile guy. But if we see the publications, we see how many times he was one of the key authors and how many times he was behind the ideas. And I remember how much I learned from Henry, and he never really expected me to mention that or to promote him or to it was just a natural thing on him to help me do better. I remember the first full mouth implant rehabilitation I did in my life, I did for him. One of the first cases I did. And I thought I knew something about it. And I did the abutments completely wrong. I did completely over-contoured. 10 abutments, full mouth, a disaster. It took him around 2 hours to reshape the zirconia abutments to fit the bone. It didn't even go in because of the bone. It was so bulky, the submergence profile. Yeah. And I remember him giving me a lecture. It was my first perio lecture. Until today, I tell every technician, every great technician needs to be a periodontist. You need to understand the principles. And for me, that journey started with Henry that day when he explained me the basic principles of submergence profile, the bone, the soft tissue, the biological width, concavity, and soft tissue thickness.
That lecture took place after hours in the laboratory with his laptop and with a glass of scotch.
Definitely.
Henry has and always will be the idea guy in the group. He's obviously taught me a tremendous amount. I wouldn't be where I am without all the things he's done for me. And you're absolutely right. Humble, never did it for the wrong reasons. If anything, he's the most understated of us all. He prefers that. But people that really know, they know that this is the guy. And for our team, when he came on board, and that changed our team forever. We would not have really truly been Team Atlanta. And the articles that came out since that moment were mostly, I'd say, inspired by his thoughts.
So let's mention a couple that you and him were strongly were the ones creating. Guided soft tissue healing abutment to support vertical soft tissue growth, and the other one here, the aesthetic smile diagnosis and treatment, and the other one here, landmark article, interproximal height of bone. Talk a little bit about these three.
Those are really, all of them, think about them, Christian. Guided soft tissue augmentation was spurred on by what? By aesthetic failures with dental implants. We didn't have tissue. The tissue receded. Abutments were exposed. We were very, very disappointed. We were upset. It was either our cases or cases that were referred to us, and we had to come up with an idea to solve these problems. So we sat together and say, hey, we've been taught to put cover screws the day of implant placement. Today, everybody's doing one stage and immediate, but back then, we used to put a cover screw on an implant. They still come with cover screws, I think. Yeah. But we decided to use the healing abutments as tent poles for vertical augmentation. So really that, again, started back in the early 90s because of the need we had to fix our own problems as well as those of others. And then, of course, I think, if you ask me the article, what is the article that I believe changed, that we can feel proud about, that maybe we changed dentistry for the better in all facets, not just implants, but in conventional dentistry as well, it would be the IHB, the interproximal height of bone article in 1998.
This one here, right?
Yes, Practical Periodontics and Aesthetic Dentistry Journal. And then it was published twice again, published by Ron Nevins in his journal, IJPRD, in 2007. So I believe that chart that we published to this day still becomes one of the key articles that I see on major podiums around the world, and people utilize it to make better decisions. And those were solutions that we needed. We need to understand what would happen if we put two implants together. What would happen if we put an implant next to a conic? What is the difference in terms of that interproximal support for aesthetics and the interdental papilla? And it was inspired by Dennis's article in 1992, which is the 5 millimeter rule. Yeah. So we really took what Dennis did around teeth, and we applied it to everything else.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's go here. We have now other concepts here. We have immediate tooth replacement by drilling through the teeth, first digital journal. What does that mean?
In 1999, a journal came to us. It was, I believe, Stefano Grassis and some of his colleagues. They came up with a digital online journal, and they asked us to publish in it. And we wanted something different. So we took a case that was ankylosed. Mm-hmm. And we said, rather than damage the bone by extracting an ankylosed tooth, we solved that problem by removing the tooth by drilling through it using conventional drills and implant drills, and then chiseling out the remaining part of the tooth. And that was the inspiration eventually to what's led us to today's whole concept of submerged roots and partial extraction therapy, which again, I think has been another disruptive concept in dentistry. You know, originally a lot of people said you shouldn't do it, couldn't do it. And we published in 2007 submerged root concepts. And then again, like we all do, get inspired by each other. Marcus Hertzler was at a meeting where Henry and I presented that as the first time when it was published, and Marcus was in the front row writing notes, and it inspired him, and he told me later on and sent me the paper before it was published of what became the socket shield concept, which was published in 2010. So I love the fact that there's so many people that inspired us, and then today we inspire a lot of people as well. I saw that you had our dear friend Miguel Stanley on your program on Wednesday, and I watched it. I enjoyed the program, just like other people may be watching us now. But Miguel, I met him when he was a very young and inspiring dentist. I knew that he was destined for greatness, and I took a liking to him, and he to us. And it was really nice to hear him say how he was inspired by our group.
Great friend, great guy, and we talked about you guys definitely on Wednesday, mentioning the mentorship and the experiences, the doors that were open through Team Atlanta and Dental XP.
Christian, I want to bring up something before we end this. Christian Coachman came to our office, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. There's right there. That's
you better look at it. It was a big part of what was and what became Team Atlanta and what became DSD and what became so many other things. What became tonight. Christian was nice enough to accept our offer to join our team. We had an unbelievable lab. We had experience with Christian at the same time, bringing in other super ceramics like Guy Cabral, and there's Morello. What was his last name?
Murilo Calgaro.
And we also had, and Pincus was still working with us. So we had an enormous talent that brought to our lab at a time where we really needed it. And Christian was also a young man with a lot of activities. He was playing tennis. He made a lot of friends. And I remember, Christian, if you don't mind, I have to tell the world, I'm going to interview you for the next 60 seconds. Christian lived in my house for a year, and it was one of the most fun years I've had. My kids learned to love him, and my whole family, my wife, and all of our colleagues. But one of the best things is that what people don't know is that I came to Christian after a few years, and I said, you're doing unbelievable stuff in the lab. You need to buy a camera, and you need to get a computer. And one of these days, you need to write an article, and you need to lecture. And Christian looked at me and said, you know what? I don't really think that that's something I want to do.
I prefer to play tennis.
I prefer to just wake up, play tennis, and make beautiful teeth and beautiful smiles, which he did very well. Great tennis player. I never beat him. Unfortunately, is the one thing I've never been able to do. But we had a great time, and it was. I think if people want to really know and remember, the first article that you were involved in, we were involved in together, and the artificial gingival concept that you did, I had a chance of being an author on that with you, was outstanding, and I loved it, and I know it was a lot of work. It was the first 3-part series ever published in IJPRD.
These are the 3.
That's right.
Then started in 2007. We came out finally 2009. Yeah.
Yes. And it was a 3-part paper. Christian put so much pictures and so much writing that Ron Nevins said, Maurice, this is not a book. This is a journal. I can't publish that many concepts. So we broke it first into 2 parts, then into 3 parts. And it turned out to be a landmark paper that I'm very, very proud to be part of. And Christian, you deserve all the credit. Second of all, I then asked Christian, great idea, write a paper. How about if you lecture? No, I don't want to travel around the world lecturing. I really don't think that's for me. And now I think that Christian has lectured more around the world than any dental professional on earth in the last several years. And I've been able to come and watch him in Atlanta recently. I'm so proud of what you've been able to do and your message and how you convey it from the stage. You've really become an incredible orator, and you speak beautifully from the stage, very clear, even for concepts that are very new. And your first lecture was with Team Atlanta.
Yes.
So, first article, first camera, first computer, and first lecture, all with us. And now, 10 years later, look at what you have done on your own, and we're so proud of you.
And this was the first. That's why I put this image here. This was the first important lecture, very, very important lecture I gave, and it allowed me to, allowed me moments like this. Can you imagine me, young Brazilian technician, giving a combined? It's not like we were on the same program. No, all these guys shared the same stage, lecturing together. Team Seattle with some of the biggest guys ever in the world, and the full Team Atlanta. The only time we were all together on the same stage: Pincus Goldstein, Henry Maurice, Garber, and myself. 2008. This picture for me will stay with me forever.
And as it should. It was a classic. It'll never be relived. It was a moment in time that I think anybody that was there will remember that moment. I think it was magical, Christian. And like I said, we couldn't be prouder of what you've been able to do even after you went out on your own. And you know that you'll always be part of our team. But also, how much fun has it been to continue to collaborate together, continue to drive things forward, continue to do things together. I think, as we've always thought, we were always better together. And to bring in other people that have been inspirational and work with them. The Agnini brothers from Italy, Howie Gluckman from South Africa. These people have been integral for us, the 5D group in Japan. Do you remember the party we had with those guys in Atlanta? With around our head and a lot of sake.
Yeah, that was actually the first ever lecture I gave in my life in English. Was for them. That was 2006.
Yeah, but the reason that you were able to do is because they were Japanese and they didn't understand what you were saying.
They didn't understand nothing. So I lectured for them. I had no pressure. But that was the first ever. That was the first ever. You guys came to me and said, Christian, you're going to lecture for this group of Japanese. There's 30 Japanese guys. They're in the back room there, and they want to hear about the pink hybrid restoration. So go there and give a lecture. So I gave my first half-an-hour lecture in my life in English that day.
and what's great is that several years later, they invited you to come to Japan, and then you had pictures with them in Japan lecturing for them. And that's the whole idea of our concept with Dental XP of always being inclusive, sharing. I think you've done an amazing job sharing your knowledge around the world. If people come to me all the time, I don't know, I'm sure they're going to start, if they haven't already, come to you, Christian, and ask you, what is, if you had to pick one thing, what's the one thing that you're most proud of, that's most special in your professional career? And it's very funny because most of the time people would say, what is it about them individually? An award that you won, a lecture that you gave. Most people would think that that would be the case, but a book you wrote. But it's not. when I asked David and Ron and Henry, and I sat together, we one night over a glass of scotch, just like the one I have here because it's Friday night. And I asked this, I said, what's the most, and it was unanimous amongst all of us. We said, Dental XP, being able to bring the world closer together, making friends, really lifelong and close friends that we've shared personal, really special relationships with, Marcelo Ferrer being one of them, as I mentioned before, Manuel de la Rosa, continuing to go out there, the Agnini brothers. It goes on. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, and I'm sorry if I have it. Jorge Campos and Juan Alberto and Ramon Gomez Meda, and it goes on. Snezana Pol, and it just goes on and on and on. And I think that it was collective for all of us that when we have these live events and all these people come together and we see them sharing their relationships amongst continents and countries and still staying very close together, that's the thing that we're most proud of, that we brought the world somehow in our own little way, in our own little world, in our own little profession. We brought that world together, and there is no race, there is no color, there is no boundary. And the person that really deserves the credit for really bringing that atmosphere to Dental XP was Eddie, the non-dentist in my family. And anybody and all those people I mentioned who know Eddie know that Eddie decided after a few years, we told him, well, this is an online community. And he said, why should it be only online? Why should these be just digital friends? Why can't we bring them together to live events and share our knowledge together? And the first time we did a live event, he said to me, so you think anybody will come? I said, I don't know. And he said, what do you think would be a successful outcome? I said, 120, 130 people. And the first meeting in Vegas, which you were there for, we had over 550 people from over 45 countries. And that showed us that we're doing something right. And we're really, really excited.
I have a feeling you guys are doing something right since 50 years.
50 years.
You guys are not doing something right.
Christian, what's exciting? What we also should tell everybody is that there's going to be a meeting, save the date, in Atlanta, 50 years of Team Atlanta teaching and research. We're going to have not just Team Atlanta, but we're going to have yourself, DSD, dentists from all over the world, part of your group, part of our group. Christian and I are going to be the scientific chairman of the meeting. And the meeting is going to be unique because there will be a very...
October?
Yes, October 26th, 27th in Atlanta, 26th, 27th.
And actually the story of these landmark articles will be the core, will be the script of the event, right?
Absolutely. We're going to try to break up the meeting into those cores and also bring people that actually took the ideas that were presented by all of us and actually today do it even better than we do. And there are a lot of them, aren't there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the best.
That's the best part.
That's the best when people start doing better than you.
Yes.
And then, and I know, it's a last minute invitation here, but I want to join you on this invitation. Atlanta, October 26, 27, 2 days of brainstorm is a different meeting because it's a much more interactive. The idea is to bring the topics and then have these mentors on stage and have everybody interacting, since it's not going to be a huge meeting, smaller group of people.
Yes.
So
only 250 people. So we're going to really keep it very, very closed. And we'll have more information coming in the next few weeks through DSD, Facebook.
DSD feeds Team Atlanta.
Yes, absolutely.
To celebrate the 50 years.
I think that it was a great idea that Eddie had. I think it was great that we got to be able to get it together with you and the rest of the team. And I think it'll be...
I had to change like 3 flights and cancel like 4 lectures, but I'm going to be there.
We appreciate that you were able to do that. And you know that we really, really look forward to that. I think it'll be a real special time. It's going to be a celebration of great concepts, sharing ideas, and really looking into the future, and to do it in a very, very small, casual, intimate setting where people can really interact and challenge one another but do it in a friendly way. There's no egos. As you learned very quickly in our office, Christian, there is no egos. We all look at each other as equals, always have, and that will always be the case.
I prefer to say there are egos, but they're all under control, and the egos will never dictate our ethical behavior and friendship.
That's for sure. Absolutely. And I just want to say that one of these days when you're very, very tired and you've gotten off 3 planes, I'm going to try to play you in tennis, because I promised myself before I go, my bucket list is I got to take at least 1 set.
I'll bring my rackets. I haven't been practicing. I will bring my rackets. That was amazing. I hope we achieved our goal of I really wanted to take advantage. I know I can bring Maurice back again, and we will have Maurice back again here as our guest to explore more his life, his career, his ideas, what he sees as the trends, and to talk about education from his perspective. But since we are celebrating the 50 years of Team Atlanta in the educational environment, I couldn't miss this opportunity, also because of the event that we will do together, to pay this tribute, number one, to Dr. Ronald Goldstein, that needs to be in a separate area in the world of dentistry, together with very, very few people. I always put him there. David Garber, I always mention, my American father, while I was there in US for 5 years, and then really supporting me, not only dentally, but also emotionally, because it's very tough to change countries, leave your family, and move. And Garber was really emotionally taking care of me there. For you, Maurice, and your family, for taking me over there, for opening your house, for allowing me to work together and develop together. And above all, as you already mentioned, for one day getting me and shaking me like this. What the hell are you doing with your life? Do something about it, you know. You have the ideas, you have some talent, just make something, you know. And I will remember that day forever, in your kitchen, your house.
Yes. Amazing. I remember it like it was yesterday.
You can play tennis forever, and I will be your friend, but it's going to be a waste. So I will be always thankful for that moment. And because of all of that, you know, and I mentioned also Henry and Eddie, because of all of that, and Pincus, I cannot forget Pincus, who embraced me, even though I was supposed to come to take his place, kind of. He was just unbelievable, and we became partners, and I learned so much from him. So actually, from every single Team Atlanta member, I just want to say thank you. And that's why I wanted to pay this tribute with this interview. I hope you enjoyed. I was emotional during the interview, preparing the interview, remembering all these moments. So special moment for me.
Christian, I could say exactly the same. You were nice enough to invite me. I'm really happy that I was able to do this tonight. And you're right, it was a very special week that you and I got to, we actually worked on this interview to try to collect all this information. And as you said, it was at times emotional. At times it was also, there was great pride in looking back. I guess sometimes you really should go back and look at pictures of your family and look at pictures of joyous occasions and look at old report cards or graduation certificates, because in order to, sometimes we get so caught up in today and the immediate moments that we don't look back sometimes and appreciate where we've come from and what we've accomplished. And I think sometimes many of us out there, because we're so motivated to do good. I know a lot of the people who may be still watching us right now are like us. They're very motivated. They want to do great stuff. And you're a little bit too hard on yourselves. Look back at all you've achieved. Look back at all you've done. Don't be so hard on yourselves, and realize you've done an amazing getting to this day, and appreciate the past so that you can also appreciate the future. Christian, you were a big part of what we did in Atlanta. You will always be part of Team Atlanta. It's very interesting you mentioned the thing with Pincus and you, but even in that environment, still a team player, and Pincus to this day still working in our office, doing cases occasionally with us, and really a very unique part of our team now for Pincus since the early 80s. So amazing. I hope that I can maybe we have something unique when you're here for the event in October. Maybe we do a little bit live feed with everybody.
I have already everything planned. Don't worry. We're going to be live for the whole world. The whole world needs to celebrate this moment with us.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I really appreciate being here tonight with you, Christian. It's really an honor and pleasure. Very, very proud of what you've done for the world of dentistry. You have a lot to be proud of, and I just want you to know we are big fans of you. Always will be, and I hope to see you soon. Stay well, my friend. God bless.
You too. See you in Atlanta. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna have a drink. I'm gonna have a drink myself right now. I hope everybody enjoyed such a special moment for me. It was a treat for me to have this possibility to interview my American brother. If I call Garber my father, Maurice is my brother. See you guys in the next interview. We have special guests for next week. I hope you will keep sharing the word and spreading the word of this show, because the goal is to pick the brains of the best people in our industry and share with you all their amazing experiences. So see you next time, and see you, Maurice, in Atlanta. Big hug.
Yeah, guy.